Hi, folks. Welcome back to Critico's Corner. Let's check out what's going on in the Hill. Feinstein's hug of Lindsey Graham sparks outrage on the left. Really? Seriously? Never have been a Dianne Feinstein, senator from California. Used to be a regular Democrat. Now is at least leans towards, she's not nearly as bad as Kamala Harris. I mean, that's for certain, but so, I mean, if I compare the two, you poke your eye with a dull stick or a sharp stick. Kamala Harris is a sharp stick. It's still going to hurt, but it is better. But anyway, after the hearing, at the end of the hearing, I should say today, Dianne Feinstein praised Lindsey Graham, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, for running a good committee. And she went over and hugged him briefly, very briefly. Senator Feinstein praised of her Republican colleague, Senator Graham, which he followed with a friendly hug, is stirring outrage on the left and promoting calls for prominent. Now, I'm going to substitute the word liberals in this entire, and from now on, when I read these stories, and say progressives instead of liberals, because liberals aren't around anymore. There's very few of them. By prominent progressives for her to step down to the top Democrat of the Senate Judiciary Committee, one of the most prominent committees, I might add, in Congress. Demand justice. Democrats and progressive activists and left-wing pundits, many of them were dismayed that Democratic senators didn't put a tougher fight against President Trump's Supreme Court nominee, Amy Coney Barrett, expressed outrage. They're outraged at everything. It's too hot today. Oh, I'm mad. Oh, it's too cold. Yeah, I'm mad. You looked at me longer than I wanted you to. Yeah, I'm mad. I mean, outrage is their fallback emotion. Demand justice. I love these names. An advocacy group that has staunchly opposed Trump's effort to fill the judiciary was first out of the gate with a statement calling for Feinstein to resign. It's time for Senator Feinstein to step down from her leadership position on the Senate Judiciary Committee. What are you going to get, somebody like Cory Booker who's on there? I don't like what Dianne Feinstein says, and I didn't like how she treated Judge Barrett 3 years ago, but, she is what she is. If she won't, her colleagues need to intervene, Brian Fallon, the executive director of Demand Justice, said in a statement circulated about an hour after Barrett's confirmation hearing ended. Her colleagues need to intervene because she hugged a colleague who she's known for many years. If you remember right, Judge Ginsburg and Judge Scalia were very close personal friends. So if they spent a lot of time at each other's houses and socializing then, somebody should have stepped in and had Ginsburg replaced. These people are stupid. If Senate Democrats are going to get their act together on the courts going forward, that cannot be led by someone who treats sunrise activists with contempt and the Republican theft of a Supreme Court seat with kid gloves. What theft? The woman died. The woman died. I felt bad too. She led an extraordinary life, Justice Ginsburg. I didn't agree with 95% of what she said, but she had an extraordinary life. Fallon said, referring to the Sunrise Movement, a grassroots environmental organization. Oh, here we go. Prominent voice respected on the left, followed with their own stinging criticisms. I love this. This is like really written to stir things up. Dianne Feinstein praising Barrett and then inexplicably praising Graham is a clear sign she should not remain the top Democrat of the Judiciary Committee, tweeted Norman Ornstein, a resident scholar, all of this, the American Enterprise Institute. Oh, yeah, that's another beautiful organization. And a contributing editor for Atlantic Magazine. Oh, man. Like a double whammy. Lawrence Tripe, professor emeritus of constitutional law at Harvard, retweeted Ornstein's statement, adding, I'm afraid I agree. As much as I liked Senator Feinstein personally, admired her work years ago. Oh, yeah. Constitutional law professor at Harvard says that. Geez, I wonder what he thinks of the Constitution. Not much, apparently. Feinstein appeared to undercut weeks of arguments by Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and other Democrat senators that Graham's decision to schedule Barrett's confirmation hearing a mere 2 weeks and 2 days after her nomination was announced on September 26th was outrageously unfair, ramming through the nominee. Graham, who's up for re-election, is also one of the Democrats' top political targets in 2020. Well, anybody's got an R in their name. Donors from around the country poured $57 million into his opponent. Jamie Harrison's campaign the third quarter of the year. Senate Democrats have repeatedly slammed Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Graham for speeding Barrett's confirmation on the Senate floor for final vote before Election Day after Republicans blocked the hearing vote for President Barack Obama's nominee. Here we go again. Merrick Garland, who was nominated nearly 8 months before the 2016 election. I know this is falling on deaf ears. Probably going to be listening to this is probably a conservative type person who agrees with this. It wasn't the same. It wasn't the same. The Senate and the presidency were different parties. In an election year, they do not nominate. It's going on since 1880. Call it a gentleman's agreement or whatever you want to call it. That is the truth of it. Feinstein didn't appear to hold any grudge against Graham after he locked in a committee vote on Barrett's nomination for October 22nd, preventing Democrats from holding it over for an extra week as the minority party is customarily allowed to do. Yeah, there was a voice vote, and they lost. Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank you. This is one of the best set of hearings I've ever participated in. I want to thank you for your fairness and the opportunity of going back and forth. Republicans and conservatives are fair. Are fair. They don't always get their way, but Democrats, if they get their way, they're fine. If they don't, they're like 5-year-olds. At least one with a lot of hopes, a lot of questions, and even some ideas. Perhaps some good bipartisan legislation we can put together to make this great country even better, she said. Well, there it goes. When Feinstein capped off her praise of Graham with a quick hug, it sparked outrage for hugging a colleague that she's known for God knows how long. John Lovett, who co-founded Crooked Media with prominent former White House veterans. Well, boy, there's a sentence. Let me say that again. Founded Crooked Media with prominent former White House veterans. Boy, I wonder what that group entails. If she can't say this about this ongoing travesty, is another sad statement about how poorly represented we are by Dianne Feinstein. So if you don't think like me, get the F out. Basically what that is. Adam Park Omenko, a strategist who served as National Field Director for Democratic National Committee, tweeted, "Excuse me while I go punch a hole in the wall." My God, these people are crazy. One Senate Democrat called the hug crazy. For to make those kind of statements and praise Graham was just bizarre and absurd to me, said the aide. No name. This isn't a progressive versus a moderate issue. The intention was to spend this hearing period laying bare why Barrett is a problematic choice. They tried everything they could. They can't get to her because she's a perfect choice. All that is required under the law is she's highly qualified. Period. That messaging was really important to her junior senator, her colleague. Kamala Harris, that's important to her because the other senator from California hugged Lindsey Graham. So somehow Kamala Harris feels badly. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Kamala Harris, who was on the Democratic presidential ticket, really is the president on the ticket, and used her time questioning Barrett to raise a full-throated alarm that she thinks the nominee poses to abortion rights. Roe v. Wade will not be overturned. Hit J on your keyboard twice and hear it over and over and over. Democracy for America, a progressive activist grassroots group, that's another oxymoron for them, that opposed Feinstein in her 2018 California primary, said Feinstein's praise of Graham handling of the committee is unacceptable. It's not hugging. It's the calling. This one is of the best set of hearings, said Neil Sorka, the spokesperson for the group. It's an important reminder that she's a senator for another era, and Californians are incredibly poorly served by that kind of representation on the Senate Judiciary Committee. Yeah, you're right. Remember Ronald Reagan? He was governor of California. From another era, these guys are from another planet. It has gone so progressively left that nobody even recognizes them anymore. That's the entire point. They've hijacked the Democrat Party, And that's why I'm no longer a Democrat here locally in upstate New York. And I used to be on the city council and the city council president as a Democrat. I left in 2013 because they've lost their freaking minds. Another era. Is that the way she describes it? Unbelievable. I can't imagine very many Democrat voters in the state of California think the Republicans' attempt to stick a far-right extremist on the court less than 20 days before the election is acceptable. A far-right extremist? They've gone so far left, you can't even see them anymore, so that means everything else on the right of them is right. And we're no farther right. I feel no different than I did 20 years ago when I was a Democrat. And that's just the way it is, folks. Oh, gosh. I wish it was different. Everybody's going to blame Trump. It's all his fault for causing everything like this. And it's not really. The Democratic Party is in disarray. It really is. It's going to either collapse on itself or win and take control, and then it will eventually collapse forever. The only chance for the Democrat Party to survive at the national level is if they lose this presidential election, the Senate and the House, where they all sit down, just like somebody that has a drug or alcohol problem, and they have an intervention and say, guys, this isn't working. We need to change. Until then, they won't. And if they win, the American people will have to suffer through until they do finally collapse. And if they win and collapse, the Democrat Party may never come back. As sad as that is, because I think two strong parties are the way to go. Compromise on everything, what's best for the American people. We haven't had that in a long time. Even Bill Clinton compromised. Ronald Reagan compromised. Bush Jr. compromised. Obama, no compromise. Trump, he is the guy that makes deals. But they won't even call him on the phone. Nancy Pelosi refuses to negotiate with him personally. It's incredible to me. Maybe a little change. It's up to the Democrats to change their own party. But anyway, folks, that's the message from the Hill today. Thought it was an interesting article of ridiculousness, so I thought you'd like to hear about it. And until next time, folks, good night and good luck.